Yeah, so it's difficult to figure out now, actually, what to research. Maybe let's go for the radar. Let's go for the radio. Radio. I'm sure that will improve the situation. And yeah, our airplane situation is not the best. Currently we have, in total, 390 fighters that have been added. And do we have any fighters in reserves? We have 24. We have 24 fighters in reserve and producing how many? 0.04 units. Yeah, so our production of airplanes is minuscule. Very, very small. Like 1.46 per month. Wait, was 510? This is a more modern fighter. It competed against the Devolian D500 and while much slower proved to be much more maneuverable. But considering that we already have one type of fighter, perhaps we should just focus on one and cancel this other one. It seems better, in a way, to have two different competing fighters instead of just having one. And I don't really know if this one is the better one, the D510, or if the one I cancelled was the better one. It's just that I'm used to having just one type of fighter at one time that you can produce. Having them in increments. But I'm sure just switching out everyone for that fighter will be better. Plus it says upgrade need 240, so I'm assuming this one is an upgrade. If nothing else, we'll see and what happens. And currently it's just 8.49 per year, so they need to get their production efficiency up rapidly. Plus, you know, we have our minus 90% of factory output, which is why everything is just going to hell at the moment. But that should be only 90 days, and since things are not happening for us, let's just speed up time to the maximum amount and just blaze through this period of time. We no longer get effects from factory strikes. Wonderful. Now we got some more research to do, and let's just have the time going meanwhile. And that was construction that was done. We could head on for the next construction bit, but I will go for excavation so we don't run out of resources. Because there's some resources that we are close to running out on, or close and close. If we get some oil, we don't have anything natural on oil, so that won't really matter. But the closest one would be tungsten, we might run out of. And it was the 1936 Tour de France. I didn't even know that was going on this early on, but apparently. While France won second place. And the strikes are done, we got done with the military factories, so let's go for Algiers, France. Or should we go for government reform? Government reform. That would take 70 days, that's 440 days, 210 days. It's probably best to... No, let's go for Algiers, France. It doesn't take that many days, and then we can get the other one and be in time for when the war starts. It should all be fine. It should all be nice. Here are some light tanks. This one has only light tanks, tankettes in this case. Tankettes are not that great, so I'm just wondering about if it will even be worth having them when fighting Germany, which will have much more modern tanks and probably just can stampede over our tanks anyway. And since Germany will be so modern compared to us, yeah, I don't really view the access of having these motorized units to be a pro against them. Since the Germans is already focused on being mobile, on fast and having more firepower, perhaps being more grounded in place. I'm thinking a bit like the actual France in this case, but the tanks, I wonder if they, for us, are cost effective enough to maintain. That's my biggest worry at the moment, that it won't be cost effective, that it will be a waste of time. But we'll suppose we'll find out. We can always switch them out. And I think now we can actually add some infantry divisions to be produced. And they will be placed in the center. Center here with Orléans and Tours. I am not good at French. I would, honestly, one of these days I would like to learn French. One of these days. I'm working on my Italian. Not very good at Italian, but I can read Italian somewhat decent at least now. But I would like to learn how to pronounce French as well. That would be fun. Because the French, I mean, they sound For me, since French has always been the language of nobility and diplomacy, for that reason it would be pretty cool to know it. It's like, yeah, I'm a bit more diplomatic now. I can feel it in my bones, my diplomatic nerve just growing. And you will sound like French sounds so sophisticated in a way. I suppose it's just stereotypes from a bygone day, but still. France. Oh, the Spanish Civil War. And we could participate here, or we could not actually. We couldn't. Because we don't have... we need higher world tension, or we would need to have focused on it. To allow for... here, Republican intervention, for example. That would allow for it. But I would go for revise the Versailles Treaty. So we can't really send troops towards them to help them out. Which is... I mean, would be a shame, really, but... It'd be fun if we could, but it's not a big deal. Plus, it's not like we have the equipment to spare for having wars and stuff like that. As well. Speaking of equipment, we really need to invest some more factories in pre-war infantry equipment. And uniforms, boots and helmets. Perhaps one more factory there because they produce fairly quickly, day to day. This tank I'm not certain on. Light tanks. Yeah, light tanks. So let's add one more for the light tanks. One more for the semi-motorized infantry. And one more for the fighters then when we get those. And what do we need here? Garrison maintenance. We need one more for. Liaison vehicles, those will catch up. Mountain warfare equipment will catch up. Basic heavy artillery, they will catch up eventually. Motorcycle equipment. I think it will catch up. I'm not gonna overreact for it. We're still not even producing artillery prime movers, armored car units, or basic tankettes yet, so I just need to calm myself down a little bit and let time blaze away in front of my eyes. And now we got done with Algiers, France. Algerian industry will be next up the list. So yeah, the goal of this playthrough, however short it might end up being, I don't really know beforehand how short or long it will be to try to survive against the German Reich. And if we succeed, and we succeed, and might continue on, and if we fail, then to state the obvious, we fail. So what do we need now? We might need... Maybe we should try to add, for example, a light aircraft factory. Sure, why not? And then add some military factories along the pathway. Maybe spread it out a bit so we're not as concerned about losing some territory to hold our ground. We will need to extend the Maginot Line up here against Belgium as well, because we won't be able to help Belgium otherwise. Actually, we won't be able to help Belgium anyway. Radio detection, and let's go for... We can get started on tool maintenance by now. And soon, in 40 days, then they will be completely ready to head on to improved machine tools as well. So that seems fun and nice. This one is done in 42 days, and then we can get started even on concentrated industry level 2 immediately, just right off the bat. So that's exciting. Looking forward to that. To a great degree. I just need to decide what to do with these. These are cavalry divisions. Semi-motorized infantry units. I will transform these into infantry and send them to the front line. We need more infantry. And these ones have motorized infantry. These ones are a bit more beefier. The ones with 3 dots, those will stay. The ones with 1 dot, or 2 dots I mean, those will become infantry. That seems like a decent compromise here. There's 3 dots, 3 dots, 3 dots, 3 dots, and do we have any more 3 dots? This one is 2 dots, let's get rid of that. And add that to the front line that is needing help. Wait, how did I get here again? Oh, I must have accidentally clicked on the airbase here. Meanwhile, the 3 dots will be pulling back. There we go. I think that is a nice compromise. Nice enough compromise. And now we have 5 units of fairly advanced motorized infantry. The problem with these is that I will need a lot of anti-tank, really. Germans will face us with probably Panzer IIIs and maybe some Panzer IVs, depending on what they focus enough. But Panzer IIs and IIIs, definitely. Concentrated industry, what is this? Napoleon Duchesne? Oh, this help with fighters. I appreciate that. Mechanical computing, and a lot of things got done. Concentrated industry, level 2. Machine tools, and construction, level 2. There we go. Also need to be aware that, wait, there we go, Algerian industry, so Algerian military factories is next. Also need to be aware of when the different airplanes will be unlocked, which will be in a year, and also when the different new, uniforms, boots and stuff like that will be unlocked, so we can get on it immediately and not waste too much time. So these ones will be sent all the way to La Rochelle until further notice, and we will try to gather up all our light tanks. What is this one? Oh yeah, this is one of the silly ones. I think those will be a regular light tank unit in the end. Or was that it was an L? No, let's go for infantry. I just can't be bothered to have too many different kinds of units. I need more infantry. So here we have the light tanks. And what do the light tanks need in order to survive from a day-to-day? They need some tankettes, mostly World War I light tanks though. So World War I light tanks are currently at... I'm assuming this one. But maybe cavalry tanks. Here's the thing that I don't know really. Should I go for the early war infantry tanks or should I go for the pre-war cavalry tanks? I don't know. That's where an issue comes up. So what kind of tanks am I producing at the moment? The exact name of it is the FCM-36. Where is it in the research list? FCM-36. So it's this one over here. So this one is not too bad really. But I wonder, how good is it? What's the max speed, for example, for this one? We can still let time pass. 7 kilometers an hour, and the pre-war cavalry tank is 6 kilometers an hour. And this one is 6 kilometers an hour. So they're a bit slower. That they are. But do they pack more punch, perhaps? This one has a hardness of 70%. 6.0 hard attack and 5 defense. And the comparable one is 8 in defense and 14 hard attack. So I would go for the early war cavalry tanks. They're a bit slower, but other than that they strike much harder. And with this done, maybe we should start to get the cavalry tanks. So we can get the pre-war ones at least. At least the pre-war ones, and hopefully early war cavalry tanks. And then slowly advance to, I assume this one. But this one is actually fairly slow. Renault AMC 35. Compared to this one, which has more defense, hard attack. Hard attack sounds like I'm having a heart attack, but it's not really. It's almost like how black eyes sounds like you talking about someone with black eyes. Gaze into my black eyes and lose yourself forever. That kind of thing. But then again, English is a silly language with too many words that sound the same and mean completely different things. Knigget, for example, or knight. Knigget. Which fits with the French, really. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then just Google Monty Python. No, go from YouTube. Monty Python and the French, taunting French. Something that I don't actually remember what the scene is called. It is from Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail, anyway. So go watch that movie if you haven't, because it's amazing. And funny. And quite old. But funny nonetheless. It's worth it. Definitely. So here we are now with focusing a bit on government reform. We have gotten in total 9 military factories. No, is it 9? Or is this only 3? It doesn't matter, we got some military factories either way. And now we have 25 out of 25 factories. And we're actually producing almost everything that we need to produce. So I'm happy about that. And now we're done with the radio detection. So we should probably head on to entrench. Let's go for that. We will need to build some land forts. We'll need to extend the Maginot Line, if at all possible. Tool maintenance, wonderful. Stuff like that is always useful, tool maintenance, but skills and training, I love this. I also love the picture. For some reason it reminds me of I think it is the intro to Iron Man Season 2. And I'm talking about Iron Man, the animated series from the 1990s, where he starts singing, "I am," and then banging with his hammer, making his armor. It looks a bit like it. I mean, just a little bit like it. Government reform is done, and the Hindenburg disaster happened on the same day. Coincidence? I think not. The government reform was to knock out the Hindenburg. We don't really need steel mills, but we might need synthetic oil, so we might get experiments for that. And we will go with Britain. Definitely go with Britain in this case. We will need help, and we will need Britain's help. This will probably be the most historical I will go with a country. I've only played a little bit of France, and that was for the 800 subscriber special, I think, when I was playing against W. I was playing as France against him as Germany, and I even managed to win, but that's not really as much to do with me being good as it is due to German incompetence in that case. Wow, that sounds like I'm bagging too much on him. But it's not. It's not, I promise. If you haven't watched that, it's... we need to do some more versus stuff in this game. It's intriguing stuff. Should be a longer one. And there's this mod for Victoria 2 called the New World Order, where you can play as countries in the modern day, or as during the Cold War for that matter. And to play in the Cold War, that seems like fun stuff. And now we're producing at least one thing of everything, so now we can allocate more factories to certain things. And we will get the pre-war infantry equipment. While we will lower the uniforms because we have caught up to the deficit, and get some more aircraft. And concentrated industry is done, construction 2 is done. Wonderful, wonderful. And I think that infrastructure works. We will probably upgrade some infrastructure later on. Other than that, we could go for basic small arms factories and upgrade those. But they are a risky business, considering I don't really know exactly what they do. So we'll go for excavation too, so we're certain that we have the resources that we will need for future expansion of the army and everything else for that matter. Amelia Earhart circumnavigates the globe. Wonderful. Good job, Amelia. Hosbach Memorandum. There's a lot of events that don't really do anything to you specifically, but gives you some nice information in case you would like to learn more about what happens in the world. And I appreciate that touch as well.